On Thursday, June the 20th, 2019, I posted anachronism number 2870. It's a slightly longish poem. It's called "There Are So Many Reasons to Be Happy," and it starts out with another quote by John Ashbery. It goes, "The sinking sensation when someone drowns thinking, 'This can't be happening to me.'" John Ashbery. Another week of impossibilities. The Murphy family and their incessantly recurring in-laws, sandwiching themselves one on top of another, as if mattresses that are excruciating at first. Then there's a few moments of extreme comfort before they smother you to death. Only these deaths are just dreams, and you are the Sisyphus who every night has the same thing happen all over again. Oh, Murphy, my Murphy. I intone Hotlum so muffled that the perpetrators cannot hear me. The mattresses might as well be bone saws, and I might as well be screaming my bloody lungs out in the process. Nothing can stop the repeatedly absurd way in which the Styx is absurdly crossed night after night after night. Even during this routine, which seems to go on for decades, I can dream sometimes. I think these dreams are often about the better life I had before this, these seeming decades of smothering beneath mattresses. But I'm generally not sure as I awaken, as if being punched in the ribs by a dying matador's bucking bull. And I do not remember any of the details of these dreams, which seem at times to be all I have left of the diminishing dream of who or what I might have been before this daily exercise and murder by mattress. However, last night there was a change. I tossed and turned, somehow able to move my limbs among the piling rectangles being thrown upon me. The perpetrators left a bit early, and somehow I was able to climb to the top of the bed. I found myself in a little box of a room taken almost wholly up by the green plastic and cotton mattresses, as if they weren't certain I wouldn't pee my pants or need the ounce of comfort the cotton might bring momentarily to a sweat-soaked cheek or my crushed rib cage. This is where I reside. Where I am is, after a while, simply residue, until the hotel staff puts me back together again for the next day, which, as it turns out, as it always turns out, is identical to the day before and the day before that. It is all the same. All the same. Except for this night when I sleep, for most of it atop the mattresses piled nearly to the dull ceiling, thinking of all things about the original New York school of poetry, of which, until all of this tragedy, my favorite of their individual collections of work, my favorite had been the poems, correspondences, and journals of Jimmy Schuyler. How affected one can be by another's art, especially by that of nearly the entire collection of their life work in a certain totality, it means they are no longer with us, which has generally never been an issue since I've been so close to so few who have passed, much less artists, poets, those to whom I feel now such a connection that this web of connection sometimes pulls from deep within the insides of my heart, outward toward the sky or downward toward the curb. Things change. Friends who are also heroes die. Dare I say that if you've had such generosity in this life to become friends with some of these people, your favorites of all favorites, made even more favored by virtue of your actual engagement, by a genuine friendship, whatever bond that might entail. But with one you've never met, it's easy to disregard it as tragic, use it more as an excuse to reacquaint or to finally acquaint, to now place your head into your hands, which are upon her. Spending too much time with the tragedy of life turns out less to be about dying heroes or loved ones of any kind, but fraud. A fraud in which you are the victim. You watch your finances going down the drain because you believed, thanks to a commitment you made years ago with someone who decides that there never was a commitment. Maybe there never was. Someone who doesn't have the guts to tell you disappears, and when the subject is brought up in general conversation by you, the victim, among a singular acquaintance or a cadre of friends, each of them become former friends as you begin to understand tragedy in a much truer sense. Certainly nothing that hasn't been experienced throughout eternity. You wonder, is it a mental illness that needs to be nurtured out of this ailment? If so, is that even possible, this nurturing oneself to health, standing alone among the blank spaces where once stood friends? Or you Uber a few passengers until your rental car, on which you had spent your last $100, gets towed before you even had a chance to have that first paying passenger. And when you get a few, say 5 or 6 in a 2-day period, you think you are finally adequately learning the ropes, so to speak. You learn that when driving someone who needs to be someplace at some specific time, or even driving an arguing couple out to the bar, one might complain, and then you are out of a job, despite glowing recommendations, according to all of your emails and mixed messages from everyone you talk to on the company telephone. Never able to talk to the decision makers, of course, as they are not to be bothered. In fact, for many years, you've kept the general public at bay, away from the decision makers, so that the bosses were almost never bothered by such nonsense. I'm a charity, not a nonprofit. Nonprofits have to make profits, unlike charities. I am a rental car with a few weeks left to look into its rear view mirror. The odor of the shit I stepped into directly before I got into the car, in which I accept passengers and therefore spend the last $2 on an odor reduction method, which replaces the smell of shit for another, much like a bobby pin or a hair clip or a small chip clip onto one of your air conditioner or heater vents in your rented car, so that everyone can get a headache while smelling a distinct odor of shit and Febreze, linen, or lilac scented. One can be an executive assistant by trade for well over 28 years and have plenty of time to take over additional tasks, like working for a government office or on aging and adult disabilities, while living on the streets, or recovering from pneumonia for a month in a top bunk in the middle of a room around which 100 or so men also sleep each night. You, barely able to move, are of course of the belief that no one even knows you are there until you wake up and realize your wallet has been taken from the back pocket of your bottom layer of pants. I was in the business of personally transporting passengers for 2 days, a total of 8 hours. 1 year, thanks to my ordering cars to transport VIPs one spot to another spot just a few blocks away, I racked up an invoice coming to something like $200,000. 20 years later, I get a check for $144 because I was driving, not ordering, because I was let go after 2 days without an understandable explanation. You received a small complaint, but other than that, you have got a 5-star rating, one of the highest in your city. I believed this to be my new profession or career, as I called it, careen, which would get me even more in touch with the city of love. I only discovered briefly the massive changes, enough to bring my curiosity down onto a sensitive brake pedal for a passenger. No physical damage done, yet until at the gas station, after I'd finished delivering my 2 half-days worth of passengers before filling my gas with the $30 given to me by a Catholic charity in town that, after about 35 calls, I received as recommendation for, because this was to be my weekend of finally getting financially caught up to feel human again. Caught up enough to feel human again. Sisyphus. I'm better off now under these deadly mattresses than I have been in all of my days standing with or without others standing nearby. I know this because I am told this over and over again as I'm having these heavy mattresses tossed over me in a tone very like the innocuous tapes we'd put under our pillows to learn new words while we dreamt. I'm better off now than I've ever been, a better person, a better human. We are evolving. This is a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with me. I ask myself daily during the hours when I am Sisyphus, what is wrong with me? Nothing. I know this now. I say to myself during the day when I am dull, why am I a failure? I am not a failure. I know this now, as the mattresses bend my ribs into my heart and lungs. I perform. My performance is, I not only can do this, but I will do this, some sort of perfection of which I know I am always capable. I'm feeling, look at me. What a life I am living. I'm a boy, bohemian who is gracefully starving. One I chose so deliberately not to be that kind of artist. Look at me now, embracing each mattress like a first love, a second, a third, a fourth, and then the fifth one that kills you in your sleep. Now I embrace the morning. I stay up all night despising sleeping, beds, mattresses, pillows, and bedbugs. Roaches are fine. They are beautiful to me. I embrace it all as if it will bring me back, the embraceable me, my youth, the box springs I slept on as a child, unable to allow anything but me to live in its vicinity, the sheets under which I was able to lift my bread from the oven and eat before anyone else could catch the aroma of what we used to call a meal. Embracing this is the thing that will help me put an end to all of the tragedy that this life, like all lives, have found. Automatons, engines on steroids, bunnies on Jupiter, wings of cicadas which will never vibrate the drums of my ears again. This is truly the life. And it could go on like this for many glorious years to come. Problemed kids.